Oh, tingin nyo mababa, oh, malaki binagsak niya, oh, sinabi ng kaibigan ko, oh, may hype dito. Don't do it that way. The market is all about expectations, but not just expectations, meeting expectations. If you do not meet expectations, then people won't buy you higher. It does not mean also that because the first quarter this year will be better, that it will translate to a better stock market. Hey guys, so by now, most of you have seen at least some of the disclosures on the 2020 earnings, so the final earnings for the year, at least for those that have disclosed their earnings already. And in this video, I want to share, is this something that should be a cause of concern, or is this something that's optimistic for you as well? I want to share to all of you, especially for those who are new to investing in the markets, why is it so important and so significant as stock investors and traders to also look at the earnings of the company? Because since we are investing in Philippine stocks, it's highly important also that you know where you're investing your money into. So if you are a trader, you're trading the volatility. Now you're just doing it for very short sessions. The income of those companies can also highly affect sentiment for the short term. Meaning, if it's super bad, who would want to hold on to a stock that for the short term, they're releasing earnings that's not expected, that could cause investors sentiment-wise to sell it? And it may also get downward motion. Or in the same way, if it's not as exciting or if it's not as fruity as what everyone wanted it to be, then no one would want to buy it higher. If no one is wanting to buy it higher, then you would see that a lot of those stocks won't also push up. And also that's the case. I'm getting ahead of what I'm saying already, but that's the case in some of the stocks that we're seeing now. That's why by the time we're making this video in March 2021, you will notice majority of those stocks right now, at least from a Philippine standpoint, they're not really pushing higher. They're just consolidating, they're just moving sideways, they're pushing up a bit, but selling happens that would cause it to go down, mainly because also there's nothing really that exciting from an earnings standpoint from majority of the companies, and especially the ones that have a larger impact in the index. Now, if you are a long-term investor naman, how does that impact you? Knowing the earnings will give you also a pulse on how they responded last year. This is something that I've been saying over and over, that 2020 was a year that no one predicted. 2020 was a year that companies' incomes got hit, hindi dahil pangit yung negosyo nila, because there was a pandemic that disrupted the way they did things. So what I will do and my style for it will be, titingnan ko how they responded to it as they were hit. Anong ginawa nila? Did they remain there? Are they just waiting for things to get better? Or are they shifting already to cater to this new normal? Sobrang daming stocks for the fourth quarter of 2020. Their earnings were lower than the fourth quarter of 2019, which is expected naman, because 2019 was a high for a lot of the stocks in the market. And given that we were in the midst of the pandemic, everyone was expecting that quarter 4 2020 income wouldn't be as good compared to 2019. However, here's the silver lining into all of it. If you're analyzing the different quarters that stocks have been giving out their earnings, you will notice a couple of things. The first half of the year, particularly the second quarter for the year, was one of the worst quarters for a lot of the listed companies, or majority of the listed companies. But things started to shift come the third quarter and come the fourth quarter. First half of the year was the time that we had the strictest of lockdowns. The first half of the year was majority of those businesses did not know yet how to respond. And if you watched my interviews with some of the CEOs, executives of those companies, you will get the context behind it as well. Some of them were just trying to pivot still and figure out how to do things when the lockdowns hit. So it's very understandable that the worst hit would be the second quarter, or if you lump it all in, the first half of the year. But as you see it already, third quarter, fourth quarter of the year, as the economy started to reopen, earnings also started to get better. So they started also to pivot, they started also to innovate, they started also to shift the way they did things in line with what's happening in the new normal. So a good progression of companies that got hit for 2020 would mainly be, in my opinion, the second quarter would be the worst, the third quarter would be bad but not as bad as the second quarter of 2020, then the fourth quarter would still be bad comparing it to 2019 levels, but it would be much better than the second quarter of 2020, and it would be better than the third quarter of 2020. And you would notice it, no, there were some companies that second quarter of 2020 they lost money, but fourth quarter of 2020, they started to turn a profit. I think yung pinaka-difference nun was the losses and big drops for the first half of the year were too big. Kahit the economy started already to recover in the fourth quarter of 2020, the hit in the first half of the year was just so enormous that it still pulled the overall earnings for the year. But you will notice it already. There's a stark difference in malls already that people are going out, people are walking out. And I think lalo na first quarter of the year, I've been surprised walking across here in BGC from the malls and even High Street here. Daming tao eh. And I'm not even talking about the Valentine weekend. I'm talking about maybe a normal weekday and a normal weekend. It's not back to how it was na sobrang traffic dito, but in a way, you're seeing people go back to the malls. In my opinion, that's a very good sign. And if you'll also notice it, you're seeing more real estate transactions now. It's just that they're starting also to pivot more. Instead of doing a lot of those physical trips, a lot of people are doing selling online, which is good and which is something that you're seeing also shift to people selling their products and services online, people selling their items online. Even insurance is also being sold online. And the pivot is also if people take and buy more houses, buy more condos, loans also will start to get better. Madami pa rin din talaga natamaan na negosyo from last year. Madami pa rin din talaga natamaan na mga nag-loan also last year na hindi makakapagbayad nun. But I believe that the worst is over already, that we won't go back from an economic standpoint to where we were in March 2020, in April 2020, in May 2020. I think we're not going there anymore. So our goal is not to forecast, no, but based on how things are and based on how confident people are already that either sanay na sila sa nangyayari, sanay na sila sa lumabas na naka-face shield, na naka-face mask, na mas maingat na sila. I think first quarter 2021 will be massively better than the second quarter, third quarter, and even the fourth quarter of 2020. What's interesting lang sa fourth quarter is I think there was pent-up spending kasi Pasko yun, so mas madami talagang gumagastos, or hindi ka nakapag-travel na second, third quarter of the year, may extra ka na pera, ginastos mo siya sa ibang bagay. So I think that's something that you will notice also. But it does not mean also that because the first quarter this year will be better, that it will translate to a better stock market. Please remember, the stock market is a forward-looking market. That's why makikita nyo rin yung PSEI, no, March, bumagsak siya eh. And that was already forward-looking to lahat ng uncertainty for the back half of 2020. And also, that's why nakita mo pagkabagsak niya ng March 2020, boom, it started to rebound once again. Why? Because it also factored in that yung bagsak na yun, although which was warranted based on the uncertainty, it also was either sobrang laki nung bagsak that there were a lot of bargains also. And then that's why we saw the market start to rebound. However, since it's a forward-looking market, medyo significant na rin naman yung inakyat na market from intraday 4,000 lows to 4,500 closing to where it was, no, hitting 7,000 plus also. Medyo malaki na rin yung inakyat niya, that based on the earnings, if it's not super promising, if it's not super compelling for 2021, I think the only reason why people are positioning now for the long term is that they're looking at the potential recovery for the companies that they're investing in, or the market as a whole to go back into growth. Maybe not this year yet. When I say going back to growth, meaning that they go higher dun sa output nila noong 2019. If in 2019, 10 billion kinita nila, in 2020, 8 billion sila, then 2021, nag 9 billion ulit. The goal is it goes back to growth if they go higher than the 10 billion na kinita nila ng 2019. So the market is all about expectations, but not just expectations, meeting expectations. If you do not meet expectations, then people won't buy you higher. If you meet expectations and exceed expectations, and if your expectations are high, then you exceed it even further, I think that's what will cause people to buy it at a higher price also. So as of now, from what we've seen now, we've seen people buy because there was value, buy because it was cheap, buy because there was a promise of things getting better already. Now, I think what we're waiting for is evidence, data to suggest that things are massively better than where they were before, and the growth trajectory is there, that even if people look at prices at these levels, because growth is back again, it will look cheap once more. I'm still positioning in Philippine markets, but that's why the diversity right now in how I would deploy assets and capital has also shifted towards US markets, cryptocurrency markets, and also Singapore markets as well, primarily because I want to also position in companies that are ahead of the curve in terms of their earnings, meaning if the Philippines is lagging behind other countries around the world in terms of companies earning, I will either do two things. I will find the ones already right now that are thriving, that are earning. I've made so many videos about that. Sino yung mga nagtathrive, sino yung mga okay, sino yung mga nagdo-do well. You would want to invest in companies that are earning. You would want to invest in companies that are doing well. You would want to invest in companies that are positioned na hindi lang sila they didn't just barely made it in 2020, but they thrived and then they're positioned to growth. And meron naman, I'm not saying all of the companies in the PSEI got hit, but there are companies, in my opinion, that did well in the midst of the pandemic. And yun nga lang din, when you look at other countries, mas madami sa mga tech companies sa labas ng Pilipinas that did well. So yun, that's my take on the whole 2020 fourth quarter earnings and 2020 full year earnings of those listed companies. I hope nakatulong sa inyo, no? But if there's one thing that siguro I just want to instill to all of you, that kung pinapasok nyo na rin yung Philippine stock market, di aralin nyo na rin yung mga companies inside it. Kasi sayang naman kung binibili nyo lang siya dahil, tingin nyo mababa, malaki binagsak niya, sinabi ng kaibigan ko, may hype dito. Don't do it that way. You will lose money. You won't gain the conviction. You won't earn properly if you only base your investments based on other people's opinions. You won't create wealth that's sustainable kung hindi nyo alam yung pinapasok nyo. At the end of the day, hindi ko lang to sinasabi para sa Bitcoin. Sinasabi ko rin to para sa Philippine stocks. It's conviction. It's all about conviction. Is that you're fully convinced na kahit magkamali kayo, alam nyo itong pinapasok nyo, na kung magkamali man kayo, bumagsak man to, may plano kayo, alam nyo gagawin nyo, na kung bumagsak man to, hindi kayo matatakot, hindi kayo magagalit, but you have a battle plan on what you're supposed to do. Either you hold, you cut, you add more, but you have a plan in place. And that only comes in if you know what you're getting into. And if you know what you're getting into, that's where conviction comes in. You have to transition from merely relying on what people are saying to understanding and information, to transition yourself also based on that information. Ano nga ba to para sa akin as an investor? And that's what I was saying about fourth quarter 2020 earnings and the full year earnings of those companies. It gives you a snapshot kung ano nga ba talaga yung binibili nyo. Should you be concerned based dun sa linabas nila, or should you be excited that things are starting to get better once again? If you're new to this, my name is Marvin Guillermo. I'm a stock market trader, investor, entrepreneur. I'm a national bookstore best-selling author, and over the past 2+ years, I've been creating YouTube videos to be able to educate Filipinos about the rudiments about investing. So if you want to know more about me and all of the other videos that I've created, the 1,800 videos that I have, links are in the description below, and you can subscribe to the channel to get updated every time I come up with new content about investing. And to those who want to learn more about trading and investing in the markets, I have a couple of online courses. Number one is an online technical analysis course via Zoom. Link is in the description below. Number two is we have a live training session, classroom type session, which will be in the Makati BGC area this April. It will be about fundamental analysis naman. Link is in the description below. Then third, we're planning to do a masterclass course on real estate. So I just want to know what topics you guys want so I can align the right instructors for all of you as well. Put in your name, your mobile number, your email, and then also the topics that you want. Most likely we're gonna have that online second quarter of 2021. I have books that are available in Shopee and also in Lazada, hopefully soon. It's down below as well for those who want to consume my content in book format. And lastly, for those who want to invest in US markets and cryptocurrency markets, in the description below we have brokerages that I hope can help you execute as well. So from ones that can allow you to buy real tokens, or to the CFD version as well, or for those of you who want to position and buy US stocks for fractional shares, we have all of that. Send in your topic suggestions and send in your questions as well, so I can make videos on top of the questions with one goal in mind. I just really want to educate you, and I just really want to help you. My greatest desire is to see this generation do better, to see all of us living our purposes, living our passions, and above and beyond that, we use money for a purpose, that out of the overflow of what you have the ability to be able to help others, that this channel exists to help you be financially free, with the hope and intent that when you're financially free, you use what you have also to be a blessing to the people around you. So that's it for now. Marvin Germo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, guys, and God bless you all.